So today I am reading day 24 from A Gracious Space Spring. And the title of this essay is Inhabit Your Happiness. A strange thing happened to me this week. Two of my adult kids shared essentially the same thought with me. Liam shared that he appreciates college and that he has to remind himself to inhabit this happiness rather than continuing to feel as though he is still working to arrive somewhere happier. He's arrived. Time to be happy. Then just this morning, Johanna talked about how she's considering the truth of the idea that there is no other moment to get to. What we need in order to feel content already exists within us. What prevents us from feeling happiness is our belief that there is some other space to go to before we can allow ourselves the feeling of contentment. I was struck by the similarity of these ideas. We all have objectives and goals. We all want to see evidence of growth in our children. We look for signs of happiness and beauty in our children. What if today we simply choose to be glad about where we are? What if it were okay to not know the times tables and to have to do visual processing therapies with the middle child and to skip naps and to make sandwiches for dinner? What if we could exercise the happy muscle for a few minutes today? Not gratitude necessarily, though gratitude can be a good place to start. More like this: I choose to find genuine happiness in a moment today. I'm going to let that moment surprise me. I am hereby on alert for a surprise of happy. During the darkest year of my life, this is one of the ways I got through each day. I couldn't feel happy, but I could choose to stay open to a surprise of happy and then to inhabit it, even for a moment. Quote of the day: this is something I wish I could do more often. It is so hard not to think of the mental to-do list of life. This reminder is important for me and very timely. Thank you. Joe Blake. Sustaining thought. Be open to a surprise of happy today and then stay there for a moment. So today, inhabit your happiness. This was a particularly painful week for me. My family lost my stepmom to cancer, and I'm still reeling from it. We knew, of course, that she was stage 4 ovarian cancer, and we knew that she would die eventually. But we took a risk, she took a risk, and embarked on what we hoped would be life-saving experimental treatment, and in the end it didn't work, didn't save her life. She often watched these broadcasts every day that I did them. She posted comments. She was so proud of the work that Brave Writer does and proud to know me. And I was so grateful for her to be the kind of person who, while she was recovering from chemo, would just hop on and send a special comment. And so this week, it's challenging, to inhabit happiness. It was challenging for her to go through cancer and chemo and see the end and not want to face the end, and find happiness anyway. And I think what moved me the most in watching her these last 2 years is that she did manage to put on a joyful attitude even in some of the hardest circumstances. And I know in my own life, those years where I was getting a divorce or watching a child struggle or finding it hard to pay our bills, sometimes it was really difficult to actually zero in on happiness. My sister said to me last week, she said, gosh, there's just so much pain and disappointment in life. It just feels sometimes unrelenting. We've lost several of our family members this year because they're old, right? They're aging, and that's what happens. That's the natural course of life, but it doesn't make it any less painful when you love and value those people so deeply. And I was saying to her, she said it seems like her happiest moments are when she's out on the water on a surfboard, and for a single moment, the wave and her body and the sunlight synchronize And she said, but really, is that all there is? And I said, yes. Because the truth is, moments are all we have. And so those happy moments, those serendipitous, interlocking experiences where a child's imagination is catalyzed, or you see growth, or you recognize that you've arrived somewhere you've been striving to get to for a long time, it's really important to habit those. Not because we're going to die someday, we are all going to die someday, but simply because the whole point of this existence is being able to make those connections and appreciate the opportunity and privilege it is to have them. I was on the phone this morning for over an hour with my adult daughter, Katrin, whose photo is on Instagram today if you want to see her with her her dyed blonde hair and her adorable outfit. She's 20. She'll be a senior this year in college. And I was just appreciating her hard-fought wisdom at age 20. You know, she said so many things to me that were encouraging and supportive while we're in this family transition. And I marveled that someone so young could be so grounded, could offer me support. And that's what starts happening, right? Like the transition starts. This young, fresh generation starts to lay claim to their own insight. And they can share it with their parents. And I can feel better because of it. Just like I offered that to my dad, who's grieving the loss of his wife, yesterday. And I had this sort of full circle feeling this morning of, you know, the preciousness of life, that you can find that silver, golden, beautiful insight, connection in the midst of pain that makes so much of what we do worthwhile. And Katrin and I were just sort of going back and forth about how homeschooling has been such a huge, shaping, powerful, influencing experience in our family. It grounded our children's relationships with each other. You know, when this news broke, they comforted each other. They didn't just need me. They, each day, make connections. They know how to. Our family has these vibrant memories, and they are literally pearls on a string. Like I like to say, it's not the chain isn't it. Life is the pearls you put on the string. You know, the happiness that you experience are these small, tiny, golden, pearl-like experiences. And there might be some time between them. They may not come all in a row. But it's our privilege to be on the lookout, right? To pay attention. To be able to recognize them when they're present. The temptation to strive as our only modality robs us of happiness. Happiness is the awareness that right in this very second, this instant, there's a little reserve of well-being. There's that little sense that something is right with the world. And I think part of what we keep thinking is that we're going to get somewhere, and when we get there, happiness will be waiting to greet us. But that's not really how it works, because there's nowhere to get. You know, so you graduate your kids from high school and you think, phew, they're in college now. And then they have their own challenges because they're still your kids. And you don't stop caring. And you don't get to walk around with the accomplishment of high school graduation for very long. Because right on the other side of it is making friends, breaking up with boyfriends or girlfriends, getting an unexpected grade, joining a major that you realize is not suited to you, traveling out of the country, taking a huge risk to be an exchange student and finding out it wasn't that enjoyable for you, aging out of college and still being uncertain of your career path, not liking college and stopping. These are all outcomes I've experienced with my kids, and I can't even call them outcomes because you know what they are? They're just more of the journey along the way, right? So as you are living your life, if there's any 55-year-old wisdom I can pass on to you, it's simply to recognize that those little instances, those precious moments where you feel a little bit of your heart flutter and well up, that is it. That's as good as it gets. It doesn't get better than that. It doesn't get worse than that in those moments. That's how you measure happiness. It's, oh, my tea was hot when I drank it. Oh, she read to me. Oh, he didn't throw the truck at his baby sister. Oh, the sun came out. Yay, the sun came out. I don't know how many moments of my life have been defined by the sunshine coming out. Those are some of my best moments. And not clinging too hard to them, letting them come and letting them go. You know, when I think about my stepmom, one of the things that stays with me that is a good role model from her is that she embraced everything with optimism. You know, we sometimes faulted her for it almost because her optimism was so unbridled. She and my dad and my mom and my stepdad were 4 people who wanted to like whoever you brought home. I mean, think about the gift that is. They were predisposed to accept and like whoever you brought home. And even if you were going through a hard patch with that person, they helped you see what was good about that person when you couldn't. What incredible parents and in-laws they made. That predisposition to be positive and optimistic about life, about people, about challenges. And I know that sometimes that optimism can be greeted as naivete. But I'll tell you, it supported me many times. And so part of what I want to give to my kids and to myself is the gift of believing. You know? Peter Elbow, my writing guru, often talks about what he calls the believing and doubting game. It's a game he likes students to play when they're learning to write. And part of what he wants them to do is start with, okay, here's what I want to write about. Here's the topic. And now I'm going to believe 100% that this perspective is accurate and would make the world a better place and is an adequate way to think about this topic. So you write from a perspective of believing. Like if we said, for example, the Civil War was worth it because it ended slavery and it kept the Union together. So you would write all about that, believing it to be true. Then the doubting game is you take that exact same set of criteria and now you doubt it. The Civil War was not a good idea. It wasn't the reason slavery ended. It wasn't a good idea to keep the South and the North together. And you write from that perspective. Believing and doubting are 2 ways that we gain access to insight. And so whether we're writing or we're just going through our days, I would invite you to consider if you have a good ratio between those 2. Are you more busy doubting? Oh, she's reading, but it's not enough. He's doing math, but I don't think he's struggling hard enough. I'm not sure what we're doing is right or working. I don't know if what I've chosen for homeschool this year was the best choice. And you just doubt. Well, are you believing at the same ratio? Have you paused to consider? She is reading. She read to me today. It's not her favorite thing, but she read to me today when it wasn't her favorite thing. How awesome is that? He is breezing through those math pages. It must be enjoyable for him to execute those math pages without struggle. I'm going to celebrate that with him. I am making it through the day even though someone I love just died. I'm putting food on the table even though someone just died. Look at me go. My homeschool is what it is. I made those choices. Me, the capable person, made those choices. I'm proud of me for making choices. Even if I choose differently next year, I'm proud of me for making choices and following through. Believing and doubting. Believing in what you do, doubting what you do, and keeping those in balance to help yourself have a healthy perspective. And then inhabiting the happiness that flows from both of those places. You know, sometimes doubting and overhauling produces happiness. You say, well, this really isn't working. Why am I doing this? Why am I continuing to invest in what's not working? I'm going to liberate myself. Suddenly you have happiness. Or I find myself repeatedly being annoyed and critical. What would happen if for a week I told myself I could not doubt this. I'm going to give full-hearted investment. I'm going to use positive language about this experience. I'm not going to jinx it with my negativity. What would happen? How would that change the experience of your homeschool or your family or your relational dynamic? I'll tell you truthfully, I haven't talked to Katrin in a while. She's up in Pittsburgh. She stayed after college ended for her this year to work in Carnegie Mellon at a robotics lab in an internship. And I haven't heard from her for several weeks. And I wanted to do that mother thing where you're like, how dare she? She doesn't love me. Why isn't she calling? And then I flipped it around and I said, wow, her life must be going great. And I stalked all her social media places. And it was obvious to me that she is at the zenith of her happiness. And she's testing her own competence as an adult. She doesn't need to check in with me all the time. She's checking in with her siblings. She's posting to social media. She's living her best life. And when we talked this morning, it was so free of why haven't you called me? It was so filled with I'm so glad you're on the phone. And she felt that way too. Just that tiny shift away from negativity, doubt, victimhood, martyrdom, all the things you're tempted to do as a parent. And just focusing on the fullness of this moment. My daughter, who's going to be a senior in college, my last child, finishing out college. She and Liam, Liam's home for the summer. I get to enjoy him every day. I get to see him, hear his thoughts, be a part of his journey. What a privilege. And yesterday, he did all my dishes. He live streamed it on Facebook. He told me when he got home, he said, you don't get to do any dishes this summer. My contribution is to do all the dishes. So he live streamed it on Facebook. 30 people watched him do the dishes while he was talking. And he told everyone, I'm doing this for my mom because she's awesome. Okay, all those years when they didn't do dishes, that's gone now. It's as if he was always doing dishes for me. It was as if that's always been true because it's all true today. All that haranguing, that anxiety, that will he ever care? Will he care about anyone else? Don't you have that with your kids? Why don't they want to help with household chores? He gets to give that to me as a gift now. And I get to be happy about it. And everything else, we just let go. I'm rambling. I'm in my t-shirt. Barely have makeup on. I don't have any makeup on, really, just lipstick, so my lips don't disappear on the video. You know what I mean? So any comments about happiness? It sounds like most of you are able to hear me. What did you say, Mallory? This is perfect wisdom today. I've struggled with depression and anxiety for the majority of my life. I'm finally learning to take life one moment at a time, not dwelling on past difficulties. Hard. We develop habits. Some of our habits are to dwell. I've been an expert grudge holder. I made vows. I don't want my parents to be divorced. I made vows to be the, arbiter of justice, to hold people accountable for making me sad. And I knew when I was making the vow that therapy and wisdom all said not to do that. And I decided, nope, I'm going to be the expert in my life, and I'm going to do it differently. And all those people were right, because aged wisdom is so much better than 20-year-old insight that is not really insight, it's just self-protection. I had probably one of the best conversations I've ever had with my dad yesterday. And I thought, while it was happening, that it's all been worth it. You can only know what you know when you know it. And you're in process your whole life. And each stage gives you an opportunity to see good, to not just get swallowed up in hurt and pain and loss and challenge. to find optimism, not to paper over pain. I'm a huge believer in feeling pain and being honest about it. I think you know that. But there is something to be said for in the middle of the muddle to keep fighting for another way to see. You know, it's all choices. You get to choose how you see your life. You get to choose how you see your children. You get to choose whether you're their ally, or you're their challenger, or you're their champion, or you're their cuddler, or you're their silly friend. You get to choose those things every day. And if you're conscious that it's a choice, maybe it'll enhance the choices you make. Maybe you'll be more likely to simply give them what they need and not what you hope they'll be. We talk a lot about that in Brave Writer. Get with reality, you know? Get with reality. Deal with the real. See who your child is. Meet the need that's presenting today, not the need you think you see down the road. There's a big difference between, I'm going to make her do this so she'll be a successful adult and she's only 11, versus, oh, she's 11. She's having a hard time doing this. How can I ensure that today at 11 she can do this? Don't worry about the implication for later, because if you address today's need, she'll be fine later. But if the pressure you're putting on her is to make sure that at 11 she's ready to be 18, as though years 12 through 18 aren't going to happen, and help her mature, if you do that today, you undermine today and 11 today. Let me give you an example. So maybe your 11-year-old is just, you know, kind of a spitfire and doesn't like to cooperate with the family agenda and is always thinking of ways to have her way. And you think, oh, she's going to be such a selfish adult. I've got to stop her from being this kind of selfish person who only wants to do what she wants to do. How can you reframe that? How can you see her differently today? Maybe it is, wow, how much self-possession does this kid have? She's willing, in the face of my disapproval, to stick up for what she wants to have her day be like, her life be like today. How can I support that? How can I show her through modeling what it looks like to be other-oriented by being about her? How can I identify those strengths and watch them evolve into a more mature version over the next 7 years? Because what you see today is a snapshot. Life is going to intervene, and that strong-willed personality is going to get dealt some blows. You don't have to do that for them. Believe me, they are absolutely going to get knocked upside the head by life and friends and choices they make. You don't have to be the meter of justice. You get to support and notice and love the person who's presenting today. And allow life to be the deliverer of consequences and blows, and instead, you be the ally and the coach. You be the friend and the loving mother and the soft place to land. See her. See who she is. Don't see who you wish she would be. See her. Help her find the strengths in the personality that rubs people the wrong way. That is a challenge. It's really hard for homeschoolers because some of our kids are a little quirky. They aren't in school having all of those edges shaved off. Thank God. That's why we kept them home. But you get to help them see the power and uniqueness of that quirk. Whether it's a strong will or a passive will. Somebody who likes to just take things in stride, is really grounded, doesn't feel pressured, could take all day working on one little project when you wish she had finished it 3 weeks ago so she could get on to the next thing. Well, what's the strength in that? What's the value? What are you learning from that, from her or him? Know what I'm saying? Inhabit your happiness today. Find the joy in who your child is today. Be present, not in just like that yoga way. Yoga's great for teaching you presence, But I sometimes feel like when we say be present, everybody thinks they know what being present is, and then they don't do it. For me, being present almost always means I'm giving up my right to have a position about something in that moment. Let me give you a very practical example. You're in a hurry because you're late to the dentist, and the red light comes, and you think to yourself, dang it, I'm going to be late, and now I have a red light, and you're sitting there clutching the steering wheel, grinding your teeth, worried you're not going to make it on time. And so what do you miss? You miss that the red light let you stop driving. You miss that sunlight is coming through your window and all the leaves on all the trees in Ohio are green. You miss that the huge, gorgeous clouds are right there waiting for you to notice them. That's what I mean. I don't mean, oh, Zen, no, where I set aside a moment to be present. I mean, in the moment when you're having the reaction. Being present means giving up your right to have that reaction and letting what is be true. Oh, she is being such a brat right now. He is being so stubborn right now. I don't want him to be stubborn. Okay, that's resisting. That's not being present. That's wishing away what is currently showing up. But if you see that stubbornness, could you join with it? Could you laugh at it? Could you appreciate what it means about the strength of that child's desire and willingness to stick up for himself against the authority that you represent? Could you, for a moment, just a moment, let go of your right to be frustrated that he's stubborn? That's what I mean by being present, and that is your gateway to inhabiting happiness. Thanks for joining me today on Facebook Live. I know it was a little bit awkward with some of the broadcasting. Hopefully you can watch the replay and hear what I had to say then. But in the meantime, thank you for all of your condolences, for being with me today on a sensitive day and topic for me. I want to just remind you that we're doing our 10-book giveaway starting on June 1st. We will announce it both online, in Instagram, all our places. All you have to do to be entered is sign up on the button that we will send you and share it with friends for extra entries. Somebody will win 10 books, either Arrow books or Boomerang books, and there will be 5 families who win. Okay? Love you all. Thank you so much for your hugs. This community means so much to me, and I appreciate the way you support me, and I hope I give back as much as I get from you, which I don't even think is possible. Mwah. Live honestly, write bravely, and inhabit your happiness today. Bye, everybody.